Okay. So David Glazer, I'm the musical director or chair of the music department at SAR Academy. And I know I have the privilege of teaching or have taught many of your either children or grandchildren. I've been there at the school now. This is my 11th, finishing my 11th year. So I've been there for a while. And I've been teaching Taamei HaMikra. Well, I started my first bar mitzvah boy was about 8 or so years ago when I did it for the very first time. I was asked to do it, and I never really did it before. And I've been doing it ever since. And I've got boys and girls, and I've been doing it a lot now for a while. So I'm really excited about this class. I'm excited to see how it goes. The way that it normally works, and normally do this, is that there's a lot of back and forth. In other words, there's me singing, and then the student, whoever that is, will usually sings back to me. So that I can check and see if they've got it or not. It's going to be difficult to do that, obviously, here. So I think it'll be mostly me kind of talking. I'll be doing a lot of singing, a lot of repeating. And if anyone has any questions, you can either chat it, write it in the chat, and I will try to do my best to answer if I can. And we'll just kind of take it from there. Again, this large-ish type class is a little bit new for me. So we're going to kind of go at it here together. And as I'm still letting people in. So, okay, good. All right. So Taamei HaMikra, learning how to read the Torah correctly. The disclaimer is that before I even start is that the way I'm teaching you, and again, I tell this to my kids, my students as well, the way I'm teaching you is how I was taught by my bar mitzvah teacher. And a lot of this is really how the teachers have taught the kids, and where he learned it from probably was from his teacher, and again, going all the way back in the chain here. But the way I'm going to teach it to you is how I was taught it by my teacher. And there are different variances, along the way, but it's basically the same. You might have different ways in how you sing a note. It might sound a little bit different than the way you heard it from this guy or this person. But again, it's relatively pretty much all the same. Where it really gets different is when you begin to listen to like a Sephardic reader, or a Yemenite, a Taimani reader, or those type of people that come from different parts of the world. They have real different ways of reading. So we're going to learn in the traditional Ashkenazic way. This is the traditional Ashkenazic way that I'm going to be teaching you again from when I learned it and where I learned it from, which is my teacher when I was studying for my bar mitzvah, longer than I really want to admit ago. So here we go. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll be doing a lot of this from my screen, and we are going to start. And again, if you have any questions, please put it into the chat, and I will do my best to respond. If not at that moment, when I finish my thought. So here we go. Now, when I teach this to and by the way, what we're going to be doing now is kind of pretty similar to what I do when I teach the students. So we're going to go through the same type of program that I do with them. And I always explain to them before I teach them, I said, there are two things, in my personal, humble opinion, everyone should know how to do. One is to ride a bike, and one is to know how to read the Torah correctly. And it really is a skill to learn how to do it. And it's also very important. And as I said in my little description of this, hopefully as we're going to begin to see, when you learn how to read correctly, you begin to understand, right, the flow of the Torah, the flow of the story and how it's going, and how to properly read it. The trup, as it's known as the ta'amim, or the trup, it's like a punctuation, and it really helps you understand the flow of the Torah as it's being read, where you're supposed to stop, where you're supposed to pause, and it really helps you understand it in a much more deeper level than just reading it straight. And hopefully we're going to begin to see that. So here we go. So we're going to start. Okay. So I always ask my students, this is always the first slide, I say, what is this that we're looking at? And of course, the answers are musical notes, right? Good, fine. Some of you may know how to read them. Some of you may not know how to read them. That's fine. But I use this for the following. So I say to the kids, I'm using a little pointer here. I say, okay, so we're going to look at this note right here where my red dot is, right? What note is that? So most kids may not know. Some kids may, but that's a G, right? What does that mean? How do we know that's a G? Because it's a note. It's on this line. It's a G, right? So I say, good, this is a G. We know that if this particular note is on this particular line, it's a G. right? But I say, what is it really? What is this really? And they look at me like, well, I don't know. It's a note. It's a musical note. I said, no, no, really. What is this? I say, it's a symbol. It's a symbol that we give meaning to. And how do we give meaning to this symbol? We give meaning to it by giving it a name, G, and by giving it a sound on the piano, right? And that's G. And whenever and wherever I see this particular note on this particular line, right? Anywhere else in any other piece of music, whether it is over here or whether it's somewhere down here, it's still going to be a G. Whether it's a simple Mary Had a Little Lamb song or a Mozart concerto or orchestra piece, it doesn't matter. It's going to still be a G no matter what. But this G is connected to this line that has this line on it, right? And then this G over here, let's see over here, has a line that's connected with the line down here, and there's two lines down here, right? So what does that mean? Well, again, if you learn music, then you understand what that means. But at the end of the day, these are symbols that we give meaning to, right? By giving them a name, giving them a sound, okay? And music is a language, right? We take these symbols, we put them together, and we create the language of music, right? Music is a language, as we know, okay? So then I do this. I said, so what is this? Kids say, well, this is the letter A. I said, good, but what is it really? It's a symbol. It's a half a triangle with a line going through it, right? We give it meaning by calling this the letter A and by giving it an A sound, right? B, what's a B? It's a line with two half ovals attached to it, right? It's a symbol. We call it B. We give meaning to it by calling it B, giving it a buzz sound. What happens when you take these two letters and put them together, right? That's called English. That's language. You get AB. And when you're a little kid in kindergarten or nursery school, you begin to learn your letters. You begin to learn the language, whatever language it is, right? You learn the symbols. You begin to learn the symbols that make the sounds. When you put them together, you learn how to read. And the A that you're going to see in a very simple kid Dr. Seuss book is going to be the exact same A you're going to see in a very complicated medical encyclopedia. Doesn't matter. It's still an A, whether you understand the encyclopedia or not, right? Doesn't matter. But an A is going to be an A over here. It's going to be an A over there. If it's not an A over there, then the system doesn't work. It falls apart, right? That's language, right? Symbols, signs, meaning, sounds. When you put them together, as long as they make sense to whatever the system is that you're doing, right? Then that's what we have. So we have language of music. We have language that we speak, we read, again, whatever language it is. And I use this as a little introduction to this because these are now, what we're looking at here now, are the Taamei, the notes, symbols, right? These are symbols at the end of the day. Now, these little things here, hang on one second, where did my arrow go? Here we go. Lost it. Here we go. This is a symbol. This little line here, right, is a symbol, but we give meaning to it by calling this symbol a pashta. And the way that it sounds is like this. Pashta, right? Pashta. Pashta, okay? This is a symbol. This is a note, pashta. This note, this little diamond thing over here, is called a rivi'i. And it goes like this. Rivi'i. Rivi'i. And the idea is that once you learn this symbol, rivi'i, right? And then you begin to go and you look over here, for example, on the page here, hopefully you can see this, and the word here, hashenit. Just can you see this? Give me a thumbs up. You can see this? Great. Hashenit, what does it have on top? It has a rivi'i. Rivi'i. So therefore, that note on top of this word, hashenit, right? So then it's going to be a same. Here's a rivi'i over here. There's a rivi'i over here. Se'u, right? Same note, same sound, different word. That's okay. And then see if I can find another rivi'i on this page here. This happens to be from last week's Parashat Bamidbar. I don't see one over here. Fine. But you're beginning to hopefully understand and see that these notes, these are just symbols that we give meaning to. And just like music, or just like language, or English or Hebrew or whatever language, once you learn the symbols, you learn the notes, then you're golden, right? Once we learn these notes, these ta'amim as they're called, right? Then you can open up anywhere in the entire Torah, whether it is in Parshat Bereshit in the beginning of the Torah, or Parshat Zot Bracha at the end of the Torah. Wherever you see these notes, wherever you see, I keep on losing my pointer here. Wherever you see these notes, it's going to be the same thing. The Rivi'i is the same Rivi'i in Bereshit. It's the same Rivi'i in Vayikra, the same Rivi'i in Bamidbar or Devarim. It doesn't matter. Once you learn the Rivi'i, then you know the Rivi'i. And wherever you see that Rivi'i on a word, you know that that word is going to sound like the Rivi'i. So these are all, so the key that what we're going to be doing here together in the next couple of weeks or so is really spending time to learn these notes. And as you saw, hopefully in the email that I sent out, I sent you a recording. I sent you a piece of paper, a sheet that was basically these sets, right? We're going to go through each set. It's very good. Thank you for holding the very good. We're going to go through these sets, and we're going to learn these notes, right? The pashta, the munach, the zarka, right? The munach, the segol. These are all names of these symbols, right, that we give meaning to by saying these are ta'amim. These are the notes. Rivi'i, mapach, pashta, zakef katan or katon, depending on where you come from. I was taught katan. It's actually written katon, but it's the same thing. Zakef gadol, okay? These are all up until here, sof pasuk. These are notes. I don't know how many, I don't know, 25, 6 or 7. I didn't actually count how many they are. These are the most common familiar notes that you will hear and see in the Torah. Once you begin to get past, once you begin after here, you have the shalshelet. These are the more rare notes, right? The shalshelet, which appears 4 times in the entire Torah, only 4 times. 3 of them in Sefer Bereshit, 1 in Sefer Vayikra. The karnei para, which appears, I believe, twice or 3 times, Mercha Kafula and Yerach Ben Yomo, also once or twice. And I don't even exactly know how I know how Shalshelet goes, but I don't know exactly how these go, quite honestly, because if I heard them in shul, I don't remember. I've never come across them. But these are the very rare ones. The ones that we're going to be learning, are the ones that ones up here. Okay. These are the notes we're going to learn. And how are we going to do it? We're going to do it set by set. Okay. So this, by the way, I'm assuming that you have seen the inside of a Torah scroll. This is what the inside of a Torah scroll looks like. If you were to open up a Torah, right? The words in the Torah do not have vowels, do not have the notes, right? So how is it that you're supposed to learn the correct way to do it? Well, we have what we call a tikkun. This is a special book that you can buy for a Baal Kriya, someone who reads the Torah, where you learn on the right side with the vowels and the notes, and then you basically memorize it, right? Learning the Torah, reading from the Torah, at the end of the day, is all about memorization. On a personal note, I teach Taamei HaMikra to many, many kids, but on a personal level, I don't really read the Torah that often. I read my Bar Mitzvah Parsha every year. I read a couple other Parsha. My Bar Mitzvah Parsha, by the way, is Parshat Re'eh, and happens to be read on the Shalosh Regalim. So I know I get at least 4 times a year. I know a couple of other ones, but for the most part, I do not read the Torah that often, primarily because for me personally, it's hard to memorize it. It's really all about memorization. It takes me a very long time to memorize. So I don't really read it that often. But at the end of the day, it really is all about memorization. So you learn it on the right side with the vowels and the notes, and you transfer it over to the side, which is the Torah side that has no vowels, it has no notes, and you memorize. And when I teach bar mitzvah boys and even bar mitzvah girls who want to read the Torah, we just go pasuk by pasuk, one at a time, over and over. And it's really all about repetition. Right? I teach my kids in 1st and 2nd grade the Latin phrase, repetitio est mater studiorum, right? Repetition is the mother of learning. And the more you do it, and that's going to be the same with this, the more you practice, the more you do it, the better it is that you're going to remember it. It's as simple as that. All right, so let's start. So we're going to go doing set 1 tonight and set 2 tonight because I have a total of, got 1, 2. I skipped 4. You have 4 on your sheet, but I skipped 4. 5, 6, 7. So hopefully in the amount of time that we have, we'll be able to get through all of the notes. I also sent in the email for anyone who may want it, the transliterated version of the notes. I also sent that as well. That I found actually. Thank you for holding it up. If that is helpful to you in any way at all. All right, so here we go. Now, you should also know, by the way, the sheet that I sent you, that hopefully you printed out, and the reason I told you to print it out, if you did a bunch of times, and I tell this to my students also, is you want to hang it up around your house in as many places as you can, because the idea is that when you see it, you'll recognize and you'll practice, right? If you keep it in a folder on your desk closed up, you're not going to see it and you're not going to practice it. But if you have it hanging up on your fridge, you hang it, on a wall somewhere in a kitchen or in a bedroom or wherever it may be, a hallway. When you see it, you'll remember and you'll quickly practice. Okay. So here's how this goes. So I'm going to sing the first set of how it goes. I'll do it a little bit by little bit. And again, this is what I was saying. The reason why the set or the sheet is the way that it is because these are done in sequences. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. This sequence comes up many, many, many times in the Torah, right? So that's why it's done this way, that it's set up in sequences as how it would come and appear in the Torah. So here we go. It goes like this. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Okay, I'll do it again. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. I'll stop it right there. So now, if I were to take those, Mercha tipcha munach et nachta, and I'm going to put it to the words that are below it. Vayomer Avram el Melech Sidom. Names, the notes are Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Now, if I had a student, I would ask, okay, so then how does it go with the notes? Hang on, people still coming in. Good. So how does it go? So then it goes like this. Vayomer Avram el Melech Sidom. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Vayomer Avram el Melech Sidom. Now the et nachta is like a pause. It's like a comma in a sentence. Et nachta is always a pause. So let's finish up the line. Mercha tipcha, mercha sof pasuk. Again, I'll do it again. Mercha tipcha, mercha sof pasuk. So the whole line goes like this. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Mercha tipcha, mercha sof pasuk. So if I were to put it down here for these words, v'hinei ven beiti yoresh oti, and this is where I teach another lesson. I'm going to show you in a second. So it goes like this. Again, mercha tipcha. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, people are still coming in. Mercha tipcha, mercha sof pasuk, v'hinei ven beiti yoresh oti. Now, you'll notice there's no note under the word ven, so therefore you just say the word. V'hinei ven beiti. You say the word, but there's no note, so there's no sound change. Yoresh oti. So then I use this as an example for the following. I'm going to read it 2 ways. This line right here, v'hinei ven beiti yoresh oti. I'm going to read it 2 ways and see if you can figure out which way is correct and which way is incorrect. Here we go. V'hinei ven beiti yoresh oti, or v'hinei ven beiti yoresh oti. All right, so you can hold up your fingers. Was 1 correct or 2 correct? Very good. Why was 2 correct? Because the number 1 was, I did like this, and I'll exaggerate. V'hinei ven beiti Yoresh ot. That's incorrect. Why is that incorrect? Because I put the wrong syllable, the wrong emphasis with the wrong syllable, right? The wrong emphasis, right? It's vihine, ven beiti. And how do you know it's beiti and not beiti? Because the note, the tipcha, is under the taf. And that is also how you understand, right, the correct pronunciation and grammatically correct how to read it. It's beiti, not beiti, right? Now, if you were reading it like this in shul, right, if you were reading from the Torah in shul and you read beiti as opposed to beiti, right, they're not going to yell at you and throw tomatoes at you. The only reason why they would correct you is if you said a wrong word, right? If you make a mistake on the notes while you're reading in shul, all right, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's a deal, but not a big deal. You continue. But if you make a mistake with the word, then you got to go back and you got to fix. Okay? So, again, this line is Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Mercha tipcha mercha sof pasuk. And again, with the words and the notes. Vayomer Avram el melech Sedom. Vehine ven beiti yoresh oti. And again, if I were to do it again at the bottom. Vayered ha'ayit al hapigarim. Vayashev otam Avram. One little thing I also teach my kids when I'm teaching this. How do you remember the difference between a shin and a sin? Right? It's with the dot, right? The dot on the right is a shin. The dot on the left is a sin. So how do I tell them to remember that? I give them a little way of that I remember it. Of course, it helps me. She is always right. She is always right. The shin, dot on the right, sin on the left. She is always right. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is go back to our Kriyah. And I'd like to see if I can find that sequence. Okay, as a matter of fact, look at the very first line here. Bimidbar Sinai be'ohel moed. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'll make this a little bit bigger. Hang on one second. Let's do Chumash only. Okay, good. Okay, so Bimidbar Sinai be'ohel moed. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Now, this is what I'm talking about when I said sequence, right? This sequence comes up many, many, many times in the Torah. And that's why the sheet was done the way that it was done. Again, I did not make the sheet. I found it, but that's why it was done that way. So again, mercha tipcha munach et nachta. So the way that the words would sound is bimidbar Sinai be'ohel moed. Again, Bimidbar Sinai be'ohel moed. Okay. And at the end of this pasuk, Mercha tipcha sof pasuk me eretz mitzrayim lemor. Okay. Again, that's that sequence exactly what we just saw in line number 1 in set number 1. Let me see if I can find another one here. Okay. Here is Kol Yotzei Tzava b'Yisrael. So this has the mercha and the tipcha. It does not have the munach, which is fine, right? So it's mercha, tipcha, et nachta, yotzei, tzava, b'Yisrael, right? So again, hopefully you're beginning to see that the key is really just learning the notes. And once you learn the notes, it's just a matter of applying them and putting them to the words. Does anyone have any questions thus far? I know I'm doing a lot of talking. Again, if you have any questions, use the chat, which no one has done yet, which is fine. I guess maybe that means you're getting it, which is good. So feel free to use the chat, ask the question. If you need me to slow down, I'm going too slow, give me any feedback that might be helpful, please. I'm open for it. Okay. Now, you'll see over here, Elishama ben Amihud. So you have here not the exact same sequence, but you have the tipcha and the et nachta. Tipcha, et nachta, Elishama ben Amihud, right? It's not Elishama, it's Elishama ben Amihud, right? Again, going back to what we just did a little while ago. I'm looking for another one on this page. I don't see any more, but okay, fine. Oh, actually, let me go up here. This is the end of Vayikra. I'm just looking. Oh, look at this. Here we go. Kol asher ya'avor tachat hashavet. Okay, in pasuk 32. Kol asher ya'avor tachat hashavet. Let's look at the notes. Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. See, there's again. Kol asher ya'avor tachat hashavet. Okay, there's no note on asher, therefore you just skip over. Well, you don't skip it. You don't say anything. You don't sing anything. Kol asher ya'avor tachat hashavet. Okay, good. All right, let's move on. So that is set one. Okay, I'm going to move on to set two. Here we go. Set two. Okay. So in set one, we were introduced to all these notes. Munach in particular, I want to look at here, because you have a munach here, you've got the tipcha here, the etnachta here again, munach over here, tipcha sof pasuk. So these are notes that we learned in set one. Okay, thank you, Faye. So these are notes that we just learned in set one. But there's one difference in the munach. And the way that I like to describe the munach is a connector note. And depending on what comes after it or before it determines the sound. So here, the munach is connecting with the tipcha and the etnachta. Tipcha, munach, etnachta, here in set one. However, in set two, it's different because after the munach, you have zakef katan or katon. Again, I was taught katan. Some people say katon. Fine. In that case, it goes like this. Munach, zakef katan. Okay, I'll do it again. Munach, zakef katan. Same note, tipcha, tipcha, etnachta. Okay, so it goes like this again. Munach zakef katan tipcha etnachta. Okay, so if I were to take those notes and apply it to these words, hein li lo natata zara, it would sound like this. Hein li lo natata zara. Okay, munach zakef katan mercha tipcha etnachta. Hein li lo natata zara. Okay, good. Next. Mapach. Mapach, pashta, munach zakef katan, tipcha, sof pasuk. Mapach, pashta, munach zakef katan, tipcha, sof pasuk. Okay, I'll do it again. Mapach pashta munach zakef katan tipcha sof pasuk. So if I were to take those notes and apply them to these words, Yadi El Adonai El Elyon, and I always tell the kids when you're learning and you have come to Hashem's name that you should say Hashem's name for the purposes of learning it. And there's the one story that I heard is that it wasn't my student, but I went to a bar mitzvah. And the kid gets up, and the second word was Hashem's name, and he says, Vayomer, Hashem, El Moshe. And everyone went crazy, because that's not correct. And because he practiced it, Hashem. And when he got up to the actual thing, he said Hashem, and he didn't say Hashem's real name. So that's why, when I teach my kids, I always teach them, tell them to learn, you say Hashem's name. So again, Mapach Pashta, Munach Zakef Katan, Yadi El Adonai, El Elyon. Okay, I'll do it again. Yadi El Adonai El Elyon. Or under here. Adonai Elav Lemor. Lo Yirashcha Ze Mercha Tipcha Etnachta. Right? Good. All right, so let's do the whole line together, and then we'll go hunt for some of these other notes over back in my Tikkun, which, by the way, is online, and I can send you the link to that if you're interested. Munach zakef katan tipcha et nachta. Mapach pashta. Munach zakef katan. Tipcha. Sof pasuk. Hein li lo natata zara. Yadi el Adonai el Elyon. Adonai elav lemor lo yirashcha zeh. All right, so let's go back here and see if we can find in our where we were. Okay. Okay. All right, so here. So we have here in Pasuk number 2, Pasuk Bet, Rosh Kol Adat B'nai Yisrael. Actually, this whole rest, starting from here to the end of the Pasuk, are all notes now that we've done. All right. Good. Ira, good question. The vertical line that appears is basically the line that tells you where to put the emphasis, right? It's where you put the emphasis of the word. So, for example, b'nai. It's not b'nai. It's b'nai, not b'nai. B'nai. Another one here is let's see if I can find another one here. Va'aharon, right? It's not ve'aharon, it's ve'aharon. So while there's no note to sof pasuk, that little line, that vertical line, tells you that you put the emphasis at the end, aharon, not aharon. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. It's a good question. That's what that line is. But let's go back. So here we go. So we have pashta munach zakef katan rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael tipcha munach et nachta lemishpachotam levet avotam munach zakef katan bimispar shemot tipcha sof pasuk kol zachar legulgilo, and there's your line, tam legulgilo tam, not legulgilo tam, legulgilo tam. Okay, good. Now let's look at the next one. Here's our mapach. So it goes like this: pashta mapach pashta zakef katan mi ben esrim shana vamala. Now it's not vama'ala, it's vimala because the note is on the mem. If it was vima'ala, then the note would be on the lamed, but it's not, it's on the mem. Vamala. Okay. Mercha tipcha et nachta kol yotzei sava b'Yisrael. Mercha, skipping that one, not learned that one yet. Tifkedu tipcha letzivotam. Mercha sof pasuk ata va'aharon. Okay. Again, the next pasuk, same notes. Munach sakif katan. Mercha tipcha et nachta. Ve'itchem ihiyu ish lamate. Okay, good. Just looking around anywhere else. Let's see if I can find any of the other same sequences. Oh, good, perfect. Look at this. Here we go. Pasuk 28. We have mapach pashta munach zakef katan mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Right? Me adam uvehema umisdei achuza to lo yimacher velo yigael. Right? Very common sequence. Again, that's why the sheet is done that way. Okay? All right. So, for a quick review, we learned a little bit about symbols, musical languages, right? The notes, the Taamei is really another language. Once you learn the notes, you learn the symbols, the names, the sounds, right? You can learn anything, anywhere. as long as it's the 5 books of the Torah. Once you get into like Megillot, right, they sound different. Haftorah. When you do the Haftorah, the notes are the same, but the sounds are a little different, right? But we learn that when we get to Haftorah, maybe. So we did set 1. Again, Mercha tipcha munach et nachta. Mercha tipcha mercha sof pasuk. Set 2. Munach zakev katan tipcha et nachta. Oops, sorry. Mapach pashta munach zakev katan tipcha sof pasuk. Okay, good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some homework, which is I already sent you the recording for the first set. I did that so you can hear how, hopefully listen to it so you kind of get a sense as to what's going to happen. So I'm going to send you the recording for set 2. So I want you to use the sheets that you have and to review set 1, review set 2. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to send you the link to this tikkun. And if you want to open up perhaps a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah parsha of yours, a child, a grandkids, doesn't matter. You'll see when you do it, it looks like this, right? It's Chabad, I guess. And then you can pick your parsha on the left, has all the parshiot, right? On the left, Bereshit, right? And then it has it, and you just keep on going. And you can do Torah only, Torah and Chumash only. This is really a great resource that I found. So I will send you the link to this site as well. So pasuk. Faye, what do you mean by that? Do you want to unmute? You want to try unmute you? Go ahead.
The
Faye.
sof pasuk, when you look at it, it's after the word. It's not underneath.
The sof pasuk just means end of the pasuk. It's the end of the pasuk. Right. So, so going back to here Bamidbar, where we were, the way that you end the pasuk, leimor, sof pasuk, right? That just means the end of the pasuk, right? You just end it like a period. You know, you end.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Thank you. Okay. So that is, I think we'll call it for now. I'm going to send you an email, and there are people that signed up, I guess, that received the initial email that were here, not here. I'm good. Doesn't matter. I'm going to send it to everyone. I'm going to send the recording for set 2. I'll send you the link to this, and just keep on practicing. Again, hang up your sheets around your house so you can see them, and hopefully when you see them, you remember to practice. And just when you're in the kitchen, mercha tipcha munachet nachta, right? That's what I tell my kid. In other words, again, the more you do it, the better you'll remember it. Right? When you see it, you do it and you remember it. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So does anyone have any questions? I'm going to stop share here and I can see now everybody. Anyone have any questions? I can certainly unmute if anyone has any. Oh, Susan, go ahead.
I could follow you, but I still feel pretty lost.
Okay. I'm happy. First of all, I'm happy to call you. We could talk. You tell me what I can do to help you, if that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to practice first.
Okay. And again, when I send out the recordings, listen to the recording, sing along with the recording a bunch of times, and then try singing along without the recording. And that's why you have the recording. So if you get confused or you forget, you just turn it on and you listen. Right? So do it with the recording, without the recording. Use it however you feel it will be best for you to do. And then let me know, Susan. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Sarah,
I mean, you learn all the Taamei Mikra, but then they don't appear on the text that you're reading for your bar mitzvah. So why don't you just memorize the way it sounds? Because then if you ever want to read something else that's not your bar mitzvah or something else, you're not going to know how to do it because you don't know the notes. You just know by memorization based on what you did for your particular portion, right? But like each time you have to, what seems like virtually impossible, someone who never did this before, like it seems like every time you have to whatever you're going to read, you have to really memorize.
Well, again, so that comes much later. The first thing that you have to do is really just, and again, I don't know if you came in late, but I explained that learning the Taamei is like learning another language, right? They're
Right.
simple,
I
okay,
I
fine.
heard that part.
Okay, fine. So once you learn the notes and become familiar with the notes, and then you begin to kind of start applying it to the words, right? At the end of the day, think of it, it's like when you sing a song, you hear a song you really like, and then there's a song in your head, you just sing it over your head over and over again. How do you memorize that song? Because you know it, you sing it over your head all over the time, so many times. It's the same thing. When you learn a parsha, right? By the end of, when I'm done with teaching a bar mitzvah kid, by the time they're done, they would have read through their parsha perhaps multiple thousands of times, right? Because it's always about going back and doing it again, going back and doing it again. That's how you remember it. I mean, that's how you do it. So I understand how it could look completely overwhelming when I show you that slide of all the notes, right? That's right. It is overwhelming if you've never done it. I get it. And that's why I'm breaking it down and spending a week at a time doing a few notes at the same time. So like next week, hopefully by then you will have reviewed and practiced just those 2 sets. And then when I see you again next week, we'll do the next ones, right? And hopefully by the end, again, after continuously practicing and reviewing, which hopefully you'll do, right? You'll begin to get it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Anybody else? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask anything. Okay. No? Great. All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday night. Same time, same place.
Have a good week and stay well, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good week. Oh, and Chag Sameach. Chag
Chag
Sameach.
Sameach.
Yeah.